between this.
Welcome, everyone. The hour being 7 p.m. on Wednesday, January 18th, 2023. The Tooele City Council is meeting in a business meeting being held at Tooele City Hall in the council chambers located at 90 North Main Street. This is also being streamed electronically on the Tooele City YouTube channel. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I've asked Jamie Grand Prix, the Public Works Director, to lead us.
The audience, please rise and repeat the pledge after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Jamie. All right, item 2 is a roll call. Councilman McCall.
Present.
Councilman Hanson.
Present.
Councilman Graff.
Present.
Councilwoman Manzione.
Present.
I'm Councilman Brady. I'm also present. We'll move on to item 3. It's our public comment period. We invite the public to come up. We do ask that you state your name into the mic and that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. When you're finished with your comments, you just sign the paper over here. So the time is now the public's.
This is intimidating, but I just have to get this off my chest. I've been watching for a little less than a year, and this is my first public appearance, but I just have to say what you guys do is greatly underappreciated. I sit here and I watch, like I said, almost a year now, and I've watched our attendance fluctuate between a few in the audience and a few online to 200 when you're talking about taxes, right? And it's kind of funny to watch that that's what draws people, but on the weekly meetings is where you determine what ends up determining what those taxes need to be. And being able to sit here and watch you guys take your duties seriously and to debate amongst each other. Sometimes you don't see eye to eye, which is exactly what we need, a conversation, a cordial discussion about what's best for the community and what's best for our citizens. And the fact that I've never seen a meeting leave in a negative space. You guys always come to an agreement. You always make good decisions. And a lot of that also comes from your staff. I can tell you, watching the fact that Mr. Bolser and Mr. Baker here always have the information you guys need to do your jobs the best that you can on our behalf, totally impresses me. And I feel terrible that the majority of the people only show up when they want to tell you that you're raising their taxes and it's not fair. Because I can tell you, I appreciate everything and all of the little nuances that you guys discuss to make sure that it's the right move. And that goes for the Planning Commission. I was talking to Commissioner Goches between the meetings. I echo your comments as well. The last meeting, they discussed every facet of that project, whether it was good for the developer or it was good for the city. They discussed it all. And they asked all the questions they needed to ask, and they came to a decision that I feel like accomplishes the most good. And I just wanted to stand up here because it really bothers me to see that the only feedback you guys get from the public is negative because you don't deserve it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if you stated your name. Will you? Sorry.
I'll do it in the microphone. I am Garrett Kunzman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else in the public who'd like to make a comment? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we will close the public comment period and we'll move on to item 4, which is a public hearing and motion on ordinance 2023-02, an ordinance of the Tooele City Council vacating a dedicated public utility easement on lot 521 of the Settlement Point Subdivision Phase 5, presented by Jim Bolser, the Community Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, council members. So you have seen a few of these over the past few months. As the council is aware, anytime that we record a subdivision, particularly for residential purposes, they have areas around the perimeter of each lot known as public utility easements.
They're usually between 5 and 10 feet, and they are intended simply to have a location for public utilities to go if they are needed. They are not always needed. Property owners have the right, as this property owner, the Anderson family, is doing, to say these easements on my property are not needed or being used for utilities, so can we have them cleared up? The reason for doing that oftentimes is what you'll see this evening is desire and ability to put a structure over the top of where those easements previously lie. It's difficult, if not, it's very, very hard to put a structure over the top of an easement simply because if access to that easement is necessary, it becomes very difficult if it's under a structure. And in fact, there's various laws in the state of Utah where the repair to any damage that takes place may not be the responsibility of the utility holder if it's improperly placed over the top of a utility. The fun stuff aside, let's look at this application. This is an aerial photo of the site in question. It is a residential site just to the north of 900 South on the where that makes the bend on Pioneer Road. Our next map here is a copy of the subdivision. This is the recorded plat for the Settlement Point Subdivision Phase 5. This is lot 521, which is on the curve on the left-hand side. You can see the site outlined in red. This is the lot in question. When we now zoom in onto that lot specifically, you can see that the next slide will identify the lot. And then the final slide we've got here highlighted in green are the two easements in question being requested for vacation. It is the rear and side lot line easements. They're desiring to put an accessory structure in that back corner, in the northwest corner there, which is allowed by ordinance so long as it doesn't impose upon the easements. So getting rid of the easements clears up that point for them and makes it one step easier for them to get their accessory structure. The applicant has gone to the steps required to seek out the various utility companies, including the Tooele City Public Works Department for water and sewer utilities, and has received a sign-off from all required utilities saying that they are comfortable with this vacation and that they have no current usage or future need anticipated for these easements. So with that, the staff is recommending approval of this vacation for the council's consideration. You do need a public hearing by state law requirements prior to making a decision, but with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, any questions or comments?
Just a comment, it always puts a smile on my face when you say easement vacation. And I was like, ooh, wouldn't that be fun?
I wish it came with a vacation for them, but unfortunately, all it does is erase a dotted line from their property.
Well, if they want to go put some lawn chairs out in front of the shed.
Yeah, hey, maybe it's a staycation. Maybe we should call it an easement staycation now.
All right. This is a public hearing, so we will, same rules as before, we'll open the time up to the public. We ask that you state your name into the mic and then keep your comments to 3 minutes or less and sign the paper. So the time is now the public's. All right, seeing no one come forward, we will close the public hearing and I will entertain a motion.
Chairman, before you have a motion, although this is an exercise of legislative discretion, the statute does require you to make a finding that this will not harm the public or any person, and that's dealt with in the ordinance too, but still that finding needs to be made.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
All right.
That we approve ordinance 2023-02, an ordinance of the Tooele City Council vacating a dedicated public utility easement on lot 521 of the Settlement Point subdivision based on the findings in the packet and the release of the easement from the different companies that they have been contacted.
Mr. Chair, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this property has a fence around it. It does. And with that, I'll second it because that fence tells me that what Roger was talking about is taken care of. Is that okay? Or do I need to say it a different way?
I think it would be helpful for you to explain for the record why the fence is important to you.
Oh, the fence is important because if the property is fenced in, that secondary ADU, yeah, won't pose a harm or damage to the neighboring properties because it's fenced in. And that fence totally separates the properties.
Okay.
Good? Okay.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Manzio and a second from Councilman McCall. We'll take it to a vote. Councilwoman Manzio?
Aye.
Councilman Graff?
Aye.
Councilman Hanson?
Aye.
Councilman McCall?
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye. That passes 5-0. Item 6 is Resolution 2023-606, a resolution of the Tooele City Council acknowledging the mayor's appointments of Melody Goches and Doug Newell to the Planning Commission, presented by Debbie Nguyen, the mayor.
I believe there's a public hearing, another public hearing right before that one.
I skipped one.
Oh, I made a mark on my page before. Sorry, Melody, I was so excited. I saw you.
Sorry to interrupt you.
You could have cut me off, someone.
That's not fair.
All right.
I was going to, but you were on a roll.
I was on a roll.
You were rolling right through that.
We're going to backtrack to item 5, correct?
I figured you could make the decision to skip anyways.
All right, item 5 is a public hearing and motion on ordinance 2023-06, an ordinance of Tooele City reassigning the zoning for approximately 0.85 acres of property located at the northwest corner of the intersection of 2200 North and Barra Boulevard from RR5 residential to R18 residential. This is presented by Jim Bolser.
Thank you. So this application is for a zoning map amendment. The intent of this, well, let's look at the site first. Our next slide here is the aerial map. You'll notice that it's, as you described in your introduction, Mr. Chairman, at the northwest corner of Barra Boulevard and 2200 North. You'll notice that this aerial is not quite as fast as what's actually happening on the ground. Across the street, just to the east of this red square, is where the new high school, Deseret Peak High School, is being constructed by the Tooele County School District. That brings us to this rezone. The land use for this property is medium-density residential, which is appropriate for the request at hand. The current land use on, or the current zoning on the property is RR5, as is the school's property. School can be constructed in effectively any residential zone, so that's not an issue for them. But this property in question is being sought to rezone to the same R18 zoning district that is across the street to the south, which is an existing single-family residential development. The nature and interest in this rezone is quite simple. As the council is aware, oftentimes with high schools in the state of Utah, there is a nearby seminary building for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That is the intent for this rezone, is that this is the piece of property that the church is working with property owner to acquire for a seminary in conjunction with or associated with the new Deseret Peak High School. The reason they're seeking the rezone is developability. In the RR5 zone, as the council is aware, the setbacks are quite large for a piece of property. Reason why is the RR5 requires a minimum of 5 acres for a lot. Obviously, that's a bit much for the size needed for a seminary, a typical seminary building. So the applicant is requesting that the R18 zone that is existing across the street be reassigned to this property so that the setbacks and development standards are more amenable towards what we would typically anticipate for such a use, which is a permissible use within the R18 zone. Very simply, that's the nature of this application. The Planning Commission has heard this application and forwarded a unanimous positive recommendation for your consideration this evening, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, any questions or comments? Okay, this is also a public hearing. We won't skip that part. So the public hearing, we ask that you state your name into the mic, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and then sign the paper. So the time is now the public's. Seeing no one come forward, we will close the public hearing, and I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve ordinance 2023-06, an ordinance of Tooele City reassigning the zoning for approximately 0.85 acres of property located at the northwest corner of the intersection of 22 North and Barra Boulevard from RR5 residential to R1-8 residential.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilman Graff, a second from Councilman Hanson. We'll take it to a vote. Councilman McCall?
Aye.
Councilman Hanson?
Aye.
Councilman Graff?
Aye.
Councilwoman Manzione?
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye. That passes 5-0. Item 6 is Resolution 2023-06, a resolution of the Twila City Council acknowledging the mayor's appointments of Melody Goches and Doug Newell to the Planning Commission, presented by Mayor Debbie Nguyen.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Recently, we have had a resignation on the Planning Commission. Mr. Smith, Eugene Smith, has served for the last couple of years. He was an alternate for a couple of years and then served on the Planning Commission, and we do appreciate his service. With his resignation, we have an open position, and currently Melody Goches is serving and has been serving since January of 2022, and she's been serving as an alternate member. And what we would like to do, I'm going to appoint her to be a full member of the Planning Commission and complete the term of Mr. Smith, which will expire on December 31st of 2025. We've got 3 years left. And then with that appointment leaves an alternate position available, and I have appointed Doug Newell to this position of the alternate member, and he will also complete the remaining term of Melody, and it expires the same time, December 31st of 2025. And both Melody and Doug are here tonight. Appreciate both of them, the willingness to come here twice a month to participate on the Planning Commission. And, sir, your comments were greatly appreciated. The Planning Commission, they're here for a long time some nights, and they have pages and pages of work to go through just like you do. And their service is greatly appreciated as they serve as volunteers. And we appreciate them very much, and I'm here to just bring this resolution to you to acknowledge those two appointments that I have made.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve Resolution 2023-06, resolution of the Twila City Council acknowledging the mayor's appointments of Melody Goches and Doug Newell to the Planning Commission.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Manzione and a second from Councilman McCall. We'll take it to a vote. Councilwoman Manzione?
Aye.
Councilman Graff?
Aye.
Councilman Hanson?
Aye.
Councilman McCall?
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye.
Mr. Newell didn't even wait to be appointed. He made comments at the Planning Commission already, so
You're
he's
so excited,
ready to
huh?
go. Yeah, they were.
All right, that passes 5-0. We appreciate you serving on the Planning Commission, Melody and Doug. We'll move on to item 7, which is Resolution 2023-04, a resolution of the Twila City Council authorizing payment of fee in lieu of water rights conveyance for Napa Auto Parts Development. This is presented by Jared Stewart, the Economic Development Director.
Good evening, Council. Thank you. This is a project that we visited in the work session a couple weeks ago. Napa Auto Parts is expanding their business and relocating and is hoping to build a new building. They are requesting 1.6 acre feet, a payment fee in lieu of conveying those water rights. They have an estimated capital investment of $2.5 million, including land costs and construction. They're estimating there will be 5 new jobs created with annual wages ranging from $15,000 to $50,000. Taxable sales, this is a property that will produce sales tax, which is a great thing for Twila City. Those sales tax are estimated to go up in addition to what they already produce at their current location by about $500,000 a year after they build out. They're hoping to finish by the end of 2023. So that's all I have, and I'll turn it back to you for any discussion or questions.
And their plan is to build down by Lydiard's, right? The Burt Brothers is in that
Yes,
same area.
correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, perfect.
Unrelated question, but do they own the building they're in right now, or is it they're leasing?
They're leasing, and they're going to lease the one down there too. Actually, I think they're leasing it from Burt Brothers.
I think that's
Right.
correct, yes.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of sales tax increase, so.
We love that. All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2023-04. The resolution of Tooele City Council authorizing payment of fee in lieu of water rights conveyance for Napa Auto Parts Development.
I'll second.
All right, a motion from Councilman McCall, a second from Councilman Hanson. We'll take it to a vote. Councilman McCall?
Aye.
Councilman Hanson?
Aye.
Councilman Graff?
Aye.
Councilwoman Manzione?
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye. That passes 5-0. Thanks, Jared. Item 8 is Resolution 2023-05, a resolution of the Tooele City Council authorizing the execution of lease documents for leasing a Parks and Recreation backhoe, presented by Darwin Cook, the Parks and Recreation Director.
Thank you, Council. A little information on this one. So for a few years in our budget planning, one of our 3-year plan items was to replace the backhoe at the cemetery. A couple of years this has been pushed back a little bit. One, because equipment wasn't available. 2, other priorities came before what was necessarily needed. Over the last little while, the backhoe that we currently use at the cemetery to do the work of the cemetery is degrading. It has developed a few leaks, one of them being a serious leak that the injector pump will need to be replaced. And one of the reasons why this is a huge concern, and necessarily in this environment, is, as you can see the picture on the left there, that's the issue that we're dealing with. We're now at the point to where we're actually setting tarps and stuff underneath it to make sure that those leaks, that particular image there, that grass will probably die. However, so that's not our biggest concern. Our biggest concern is on the markers, the grave markers themselves. The ones that the stones aren't as porous, if we get it taken care of instantaneously, we can take care of and mitigate it on the spot. The other stone that may be a little more porous, this is very damaging to them, and then the city actually brunts the cost of that, of having that repaired. Some of those repairs can be as much as just having somebody come out and professionally clean it, or the others can be taking the headstones in, having them ground, and then re-engraved and then placed back in the spot. We fortunately have operated to where we've had a backhoe that wasn't leaking. This one is each time is just the leaks are getting more and more aggressive. So we're proposing that. Oh, and the other picture on the right. Over the last couple of years, the little machine has turned into a little gutless wonder. The reason we're showing this is actually a sign that the rings are actually starting to fail on the pistons, and so we're passing a lot of unexpired fuel back through the system, or up through the exhaust. And going up, so many of you know the cemetery area, so on First East going up to Fourth South, it's an incline. When they're taking the good backfill dirt back to the burial spots, we just use the backhoe for the topsoil portion. So we backfill a certain amount with just dirt, and then the very last probably 10 to 12 inches we actually do with topsoil so that the grass will retake. We do that part with the backhoe, and it's barely making it back up the hill with a full bucket. So we have done some search with the help of our fleet manager, Scott Miller. We were able to find a backhoe, which was kind of rare, that we're able to enter into a lease agreement with for it's a kind of a unique backhoe. This particular backhoe is kind of a little, and I actually should have sent a picture of that. I apologize about that. It's a little more squattier than a normal Case or Caterpillar, and it's a JCB backhoe. So they have a little shorter wheelbase. They are just about as wide, but they are a little not quite as high as our current Case. And we feel that that'll be a little more conducive for the cemetery environment, allowing us to get in between the rows of the upright headstones versus the ones that are flat. JCB actually invented the backhoe in Germany, and so they're very reputable. They make a great machine, and so we were able to find one. All the other searches, we were only able to get equipment as early as August. This piece of equipment is in Salt Lake and is being held for us, and they were also able to actually get us a 35-inch hoe bucket, which is actually called a cemetery bucket, so that we can actually dig the holes with just one pass. This is what we're submitting for recommendation is a 5-year lease. Each of the 5-year lease payments in your document there. I'm not sure what page that shows up on yours because my pages aren't numbered.
It's 68 hours.
The 5 years are $21,860.85 each. The first year payment will be due at the time that we enter into the lease. And the funding from this, because this was not actually this part of our 3-year budget was not approved yet. So the funding from this is we have a lease of a piece of equipment that actually was paid off last year. We thought we had one more payment in our golf course lease account, and we're going to pull, and there's $15,000 in there that we're going to pull towards this, and then the remaining of the $6,860.85 will come from project money that we have for irrigation parts at the cemetery. So both those items we'll have to do a budget adjustment for those two items, but obviously we don't want to do that until you've made the approval for the entering into the lease. Any questions?
I didn't read everything, but it is a lease to own, right?
Yeah, it's a lease to own, so at
Yeah.
the 6th year there will be a buyout.
Buyout, yeah, okay. I was trying to find, but, okay. Perfect.
I'm assuming the plan is to sell that?
It will
The
surplus
current
this.
surplus,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm sure this isn't one that we'd want to necessarily keep because that fuel injector does need to be replaced, and there are hydraulic rams that are leaking as well. But I think it'll probably end up in some starting contractor's hands. That leaking on a construction site is probably not as dire as it is for us. So
Keeps the dust down.
I thought it was a fire at first,
Yeah.
the garage.
sometimes it can look like that.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution 2023-05, a resolution of Tooele City Council authorizing the execution of lease documents for leasing a Parks and Recreation backhoe.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilman Graff, a second from Councilwoman Manzione. We'll take it to a vote. Councilwoman Manzione?
Aye.
Councilman Graff?
Aye.
Councilman Hanson?
Aye.
Councilman McCall?
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye. That passes 5-0. Item 9 is Resolution 2023-07, a resolution of the Tooele City Council amending the Tooele City fee schedule for the Dow James and Youth Center buildings, presented by Darwin Cook, Parks and Recreation Director.
This is the fees that we've discussed previously in our previous meeting to update, well, one, to add the fees for the youth center building, but then to update the fees for the Dow James building so that they proportionally match the square footage of the two buildings. So we didn't want to go cheaper on the youth center because it's smaller area than what the Dow James is. And then just the demand at both of mainly at the Dow has increased substantially. Our fees tend to be the lesser in the county, and so we're drawing a lot of attention to that. And so these are the fees that we've discussed and proposed. I would like to make one clarification that when we discussed this before, I inadvertently left one of the fees black when it should have been red. So on this form that you have here now, the health and recreation fee that we are proposing is $10. It is currently sitting at $5. And what this basically means is if you had a team of, say, 12 basketball players, and you were going to come and have a play time for the months of February, or January and February, which would average about nine weeks, your fee would be $120 for that 9-week period. So you would be in there, say, every Tuesday from 7 to 8 for that 9-week period, which would be $120. And that's basically what that representation is. So right now, it would cost you $60 to do that, but with the new fee that we're proposing, it would be $120 for those 9 weeks. And if it happens to be 10 weeks, then it'd be the 144. So, and again, just to mention that we are currently going to leave the key deposit on there, but we just met today. We're this close to eliminating the keys to where it'll just be a touch code to get in and out of the building.
All right, any
And then the
questions?
other fees stay as we had discussed previously.
Okay. All right. And I can't imagine we're making money off this. It's probably enough to pay the gas bill, right? To
Yeah.
heat the Dow James.
We're-
Probably not even that now.
Yeah.
So I
It's
hope the
probably
community
not any-
realizes that.
Yeah, I would suspect that we're probably not covering our costs, but that's also part of trying to provide recreation too as well.
Yeah.
So,
I just think there's a misunderstanding sometimes in the community that everything the city does is to try to make money, and that's not our intention. Our
It's
intention
not.
is to have these for the public to use at a fair price, so.
right.
Can I ask a question that maybe you don't know the answer to? I just thought of it. Do we rent these mostly to residents in the city?
So we've tried to see and match that because, as you know, the mayor does a grant program. And, part of the point system on that is the youth that you have participating. The more youth you have that are Twillson residents, the more points you get. But we've discovered that every single group has
A mix.
Twilla, Stansbury, Grantsville, Lake Point. And so it's I would say the majority is probably Twilla, especially with the sports teams. But we get requests from residents from Grantsville, from Stansbury, even people from Ohio, I think it is.
Ohio.
I only say that because every year we have a group from religious youth group that actually uses the Dow James they reserve it from a Friday and a Saturday, and they use it they do a youth trip, and so they use it every year, so.
Good for them.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Oh, I have one more question. If we change the name of the youth center building, that doesn't affect anything, right? Okay, that would be an administrative thing at that point. There's discussion, right, of changing
There
it?
is, yes.
It is for more than just the youth?
Yeah, we think that if we leave it the youth center, then people will think it's just for the youth, and it's not, it's for everyone. It's a families. I mean, certainly youth are invited to, but we want our public to know that everyone can use it.
It'll be somewhere along the
Community.
lines of community.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Community Engagement Center or something to that effect.
Awesome.
But somewhere around community, it'll have the word community in it so that people know that the idea is to get the people out of their homes and to provide a place to recreate, so.
Great, thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make the motion we approve Resolution 2023-07, a resolution of the Twilla City Council amending the Twilla City fee schedule for the Dow James and Youth Center buildings.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilman Hanson, a second from Councilman McCall. We'll take it to a vote. Councilman McCall?
Aye.
Councilman Hanson?
Aye.
Councilman Graff?
Aye.
Councilwoman Manzione?
Aye.
And Councilman Brady, I also vote aye. Thanks, Darwin. That passes 5-0. Item 10 is our invoices and purchase orders presented by Michelle Pitt, the city recorder.
She don't have any. We can go. I was trying not to pay the bills, Michelle.
I'm sorry.
I know
We
it's
just have
gonna hurt.
two. We just have two tonight. So the first one's to Mountain Land Supply Company, and this is for 204 water meters for $31,302.63. And then the other one is to Dell Marketing, and it is for a storage device. And it is for $31,653.48. And this will replace an old one that we've had for 7 years. So
It's a storage device?
it's a storage device.
Where's that at?
It's, well, it used to be down in our basement. It may be over the police department now.
Isn't it
So I'm
like
not
a
sure.
server? It's IT. It's
Server.
not like
okay.
a shed.
I was thinking like a shed.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
it's
like,
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
a server
Computer
device.
It may be in the
storage.
new.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, sorry.
Those are important, yeah.
Yes, they are important.
Okay. That's it, huh?
That's it.
I was waiting for more.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right, any questions or comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we pay the purchase invoices. Invoices and purchases, yeah.
All right, a motion from Councilman McCall, a second from Councilman Graff. We'll take it to a vote. Councilwoman Manzione?
Aye.
Councilman Graff?
Aye.
Councilman Hanson?
Aye.
Councilman McCall?
Aye.
And Councilman Brady, I also vote aye.
Thank
That
you.
passes 5-0. Thanks, Michelle. Item 11 is our minutes from January 4th, 2023, the City Council and RDA work meeting, and January 4th, 2023, City Council and RDA business meeting. Any changes to the minutes? Thanks, Catherine. Those always look great, so we appreciate it. I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes as been submitted.
Second.
All right, a motion from Councilman Graff and a second from Councilman McCall. We'll take it to a vote. Councilman McCall?
Aye.
Councilman Hanson?
Aye.
Councilman Graff?
Aye.
Councilwoman Manzione?
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye. That passes 5-0. Item 12 is to adjourn, so we are adjourned at 7:36.